Welcome back, boys and girls. We have seen one match this week for the Knights Arena Valorant Challengers North America. It's split 1 week to day 1. There's so many numbers to keep track of, but we've managed to get through that long introduction to now remind you that we've got another match on the day. It's going to be Guard versus OR Esports. And again, we talked about this at the top of the show. This, I don't want to say it feels like it's the most lopsided match of the entire group stage, but it's certainly a very difficult game for OR. You've got some players who are, by comparison, very inexperienced. When you compare them to the Guard who played throughout last year, I mean, this is the same team, Tanner, that qualified for an international event, now playing in Challengers here in 2023. This does feel like it's a very difficult hurdle for OR to get over. Not even taking into consideration that last week they already had to play M80. But you look at this Guard roster, there's so much experience here, Tanner. It's just, this is going to be tough. This is very tough.
Yeah, and like you said, right, the international success, I think the one maybe saving grace for OR Esports and their fans coming into this one is, okay, it's not the same Guard. They made a change. Play's not here anymore. But yeah, but that one change is Tex. And Tex alone is a problem. And what we've seen so far from the Guard in this year alone, outside of as a whole, is that one change, not necessarily for the better or for the worse, but Tex just fits so well.
It does feel like, and we've even asked them in the interviews, how does this work for you? How do you feel he slots in? And they love having him on the team. They feel like his personality meshes well, his play style meshes well. They think that he brings a lot to the table. It's not to say that their previous roster didn't have that strength. It's just different in a good way. They're thrilled and excited for what the season holds. And they are a team that, yeah, they qualified for an international event and then they kind of like pooped the bed. If we're being honest, they did not do well at that international event. And following that event, they struggled. It seemed to spill over. A lot of that, though, was meta shift going to the chamber meta. They tried to adapt and it didn't work. Now that that's out of the equation and they can get back to playing the game they're used to playing, I do feel like this team should pretty much not steamroll this group, but do quite well. And you're looking at Valen right now. That's the IGL, who was one of the top performers for the team last week, Dryad.
Did so good. I mean, we got to see the first A's coming through thanks to Valen, and overall, just we all know how good this IGL is. We've seen it, we got to see it last year, and it seems like this year is coming stronger for the Guard. This a performance I would love to see more of from Valen. I think is absolutely a possibility, but you have just such a stacked roster that you can put anybody here and it would just make sense, right? It is pretty much individually you could say that they're the best players, and it is for a reason, right? Everybody putting them in that #1 spot, and that is why we have those high expectations for them. I'm excited to see how the maps are gonna look, if they're gonna be similar, and what changes are going to be made, right? Last week we got to see a little bit of bind. We got to see trend on race for the first time, and now it goes down into how you implement new things into old things as well.
Shifting focus over to OR Esports, it's not all doom and gloom. One reason I like to highlight this, and I said it last week as well, and I'll probably say it throughout the season, I'm going to sound like a broken record. There was a time when the Guard was this team effectively. Five players that very few people had heard of. Maybe there was one name on the list, given that Sai player was playing with that old team, but they came into VCT and everyone was like, dude, who the hell is the Guard? It was kind of like a meme, like this team's not a threat. The whole stand gourd thing became a joke during that stage as well. Then they ended up kind of running the table with their group. They did quite well. They end up making it to an international event, and everyone suddenly is not joking about it anymore. They were like, this team's legit, despite the fact that coming into the stage, they didn't even know those players' names. So I think there is certainly an argument to be made here for OR that they could do that. Do I think it's likely? Not necessarily. I do think that what we saw from the Guard last year was super organized, incredibly structured play. I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff from Guard for uniting the young players on the roster and doing what they did with the team. OR feels like they're potentially a lot more scrappy, leaning on individuals.
One thing to mention as well, right, is that for the side of OR Esports, it's been a first week and now second week that are so difficult, right? Against what people consider are the best teams. Last week it was M80. This week is gonna be the Guard. And so, I mean, the one thing that you have to keep in mind that can be like game changer is exactly this, right? Seldris, who is maybe the most experienced and most well-known player in this team, and how much he can change things up and turn things around in his favor. So I'm excited to see Seldris, but I think on those duels against the guard, it just gets so much more difficult.
Yeah, I think in a matchup like this, where again it's very hard, comfortability is key. And these stats right here, so these are from the qualifier where OR Esports come from. Zeldris had the most rounds played on Raze, had the highest cast. He didn't necessarily have the highest rating on the agent alone, but he also had the highest first kills, right? So Zeldris on Raze is comfortability, and I think that's key in a matchup where you might not have the firepower head-to-head, but at the very least, you're not being shaken up by any other factors that may affect you on the server, right? You know how to play your agent to a T, and Zeldris knows how to do that on Raze.
It's important to note, too, that last week they played M80. Now, I'd say most people say guard's number 1. M80 is mostly considered number 2.
Yep.
They actually won a map in that series. You wouldn't know basing it off of the round differential of both teams.
Yeah.
Because, again, you could easily look at that match through a microscope and be like, oh, man, 13-10 victory for this team? They're pretty good. Fox, what happened? 13-1. Ooh. All right. That was brutal. So they basically followed up what was, given it's only been 1 week, their best map coming in to challengers with potentially their worst map. Could be their worst map for the season. With what happened on Icebox. But you mentioned it. Zeldris was the player to watch, and Dryad, I feel like this team has the individual skill. It's trying to figure out where things go.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the overall for OR Esports and the match they had last week and this week, this is all about that learning experience that they're talking about, the improvement. And if you can learn and you can improve from somebody, it's got to be the guard, right? The team that everybody's putting on top.
And now as we take a look at the maps, we already mentioned it. Last week, they actually managed to take a map off of M80. If we go back there, which it will end up happening, we're going back to Pearl. This is a map that OR played in the previous week. They looked pretty good on it. They won 13-10 over M80. Again, very much because of an individual performance. Zeldris finished the game 23-16. He was 18-5 in the second half alone. He completely turned it on in the second half to basically carry his team out from the deficit and into a victory. I now question, though, if that can happen twice in a row. Can that happen 2 weeks in a row, Tanner? I look at an individual player, and it's just hard to imagine that they're going to be able to consistently do that. And not only that, that's not sustainable. They need to find team play to carry them to victory, not individuals.
They do need to find team play, and that's going to take time. Fortunately, they have this solidified 5 weeks plus playoffs, if they make it there, worth of time. Unfortunately, as we've already kind of beat the dead horse on, they've had the roughest first 2 weeks. But when we look at these first 2 maps, the double-edged sword for Zeldris playing Raze was OR Esports forced the Raze on maps where it can work, but on the maps where we're starting to see more Jet op. And then you're just kind of getting duelist stiffed. These first 2 maps, however, these are beautiful maps for Raze. Sure, we sometimes see the Jet on Pearl, but when you're taking the Raze out to Ascent, although we've got away from it, you're taking the Raze out to Haven, we're starting to get away from that, and that's where it feels forced. But on Pearl and Bind, I think Zeldris really could have 2 huge performances, and maybe, hopefully he doesn't have to, but maybe drag his team across the finish line, at the very least maybe to a map 3 for this OR Esports team.
It's important to note, too, the only map that we saw OR Esports play that's in the pool today was Pearl. They played Haven and Icebox last week, and the guard did play Bind. It was not particularly beautiful. It was a win for them. I think they came in a little jittery. That was the first map in the series against Disguised. Yeah. Ascent, however, much more comfortable. They picked that win up 13-5. So something to consider. We've already seen 2 out of the 3 maps played for guard, only 1 coming in from the other team. So there is maybe that quote-unquote surprise factor for our esports. It might catch guard off guard.
Nice.
There I go. But I think that ultimately for OR Esports, I think guard is just going to play their game. I don't think that a team like guard is going to come in and go, okay, we're gonna counter this team from the LCQ and really try to play to them instead of just playing our game. I feel like they are going to come in and play their game the way that they typically play it.
And one thing that I'm thinking of, right, is that map number 1 of Pearl Yeah, we haven't seen it for the guard just yet in challenges, but we actually got to see that pro in that Ludwig Tarek Invitational, and it was interesting because there were some cool ideas that it seems like it needed to be polished, and it's been that time, right? It's been a couple weeks. They got the time to polish those, so you can expect the guard to be on top. And it's that same thing that we heard of. You know, it's gonna be the raise, and it's gonna be that early presence that every single time OR Esports were putting into that B side on defense, especially if it gets shot down, which is something that the guard fans are expecting is going to happen early on, then there go so many opportunities for OR to take advantage.
And so now Pearl getting let through. Icebox obviously is a pretty bad map when you take a look at what happened against M80 for OR Esports, but the guard ban it. That's their permaban. They say, we don't want to deal with that. We're okay to deal with Pearl. And to Dryad, to your point, to kind of piggyback off of that, that means that they've got something prepped for this. And fortunately, in recent times, 11-1 are OR Esports. So there is a VOD for the guard to go back and look at against Turtle Troop and say, okay, how do we take down these Titans on Pearl? And I think they're really looking to do that here and counter strat what OR Esports bring to this map, number one.
It's still going to be very difficult for OR Esports, regardless of how you slice this. You can look at the strengths of the map and you can say, hey, this team plays Pearl really well. You can say, like, oh, they're 11-1 or they're 30-1. Remember last year, the Pittsburgh Knights coming in were like 1-0 on Ascent, and they played it over and over and over again, and it took them a while to find that success that they were hoping for. But, you know, those teams, the biggest problem is that because they're so one-dimensional, even if they find that one map win, they're waiting to find those wins on the maps that surround them. So, yeah, sure, we might see them find success here. It's still going to be difficult, but it's the other maps that I'm really looking at. Because even if they win Pearl, I look at Bind and Ascent, and I feel like I got to give the edge to Guard. But I'm told the Agent Select is ready. We'll see what the Guard has cooked up for Pearl, as OR Esports is clearly a team that is competent on the map. Tanner and Dryad, it's all yours.
Thank you, Bach. Yeah, to that point, yeah, the one-trick map team, I mean, really has to come out and win this one, or else it is going to be a 2-0 series. I think everybody is assuming for the Guard. We shouldn't deviate from this too much. I think what we see is what we will get. This is a map where Tex does enjoy playing the Jet versus the Rays that can work. And with that Jet comes the Sova for Trent.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any changes for any of these two teams. And like I said, right, the Guard, they played this map in that Ludwig Tarek Invitational, and so I feel like they brought something new. They were bringing new ideas on the defensive side, especially, that I would love to see against OR. And because it's a map that we haven't seen from them in challenges, it's a good opportunity to see how it's really shaping up to be for the future. And on the other side, right, for OR, I don't think we see anything that we were not expecting. This Seldris is just a massive win condition that you can't really ignore. And is often and likes to play forward and aggressive. So can the Guard shut him down early on?
Can the Guard shut them down early on? That is the question here in the pistol round. We get started, and there is a chance, a very minor chance. I think we had a less than 1% pick rate for OR Esports to take this series, but it sure would shake things up in Group B if that was the case. We haunt out towards A, nothing spotted inside Art, with an aggressive inside A main, and just like you pointed out, Dryad, it's Zeldris tip of the spear here on the attack.
I want to see those fast rounds actually coming through for OR, right? But I mean, there's so much on the line here to get that confidence going on for this team that you gotta be careful as they get ready up. And look at who's on that backside, right? It's gonna be Trent, waiting to potentially use that dart. Play around it, play around that information game. The OR Esports is gonna deny at least early on.
The problem with this map is, although it's new and crazy things can happen on it, is that this is how the Guard want to play, right? This composition is their composition. And look at the comfortability. Net just on an island out towards B, so comfortable to hold that site solo. And 4 other players are here at A, which is where OR want to end up. Now they're running out of time. 35 seconds rotation back to B. This kind of has to be your final destination unless you're booking it through the spawn.
30 seconds left.
The double back. The double back.
Yeah, because the Astra stayed there the entire time. Just kind of going back and forth, but now the back's against the wall to get the spike planted and know that the Guard is going to be here.
Yeah, the double back from the guard as well. They rotate off for just a second, but they read it so beautifully. Nothing inside the link, nothing out towards long, nothing B. They all die A, and the guard will find the pistol.
There was no reason as well for the guard to make any sort of crazy rotations towards that B side, even after they couldn't hear anything on that A side anymore, right? You have the Killjoy utility for a reason, and the Killjoy utility, it wasn't activated. It wasn't ever contested on that B side, so they make it work. And this is something the net is incredible at. Just getting some trap plays going on, getting some early information for his team to work with. And on top of that, he can frag and be one of the best in challengers. You don't get to see any crazy buys, any stingers in the meantime. But strong buy for the guard, Vandal in the hand of Tex, the newer player for the guard, and a player that, I mean, has been so good on this jet as well.
Right there.
And pretty convincingly a plug and play from Sayada Tex. It's worked well, as Bach said in the player interview with the guard. They love having Tex on the team. He fits his role perfectly, and his role here in this round is to play long-range angles, not get caught off guard, and make sure that Vandal makes its way into the second round. Or Esports flirting with the idea of playing mid in both of these rounds. I love that. This is great to get started here on Pearl, to kind of create the question marks. Unfortunately, the B push might not be the most potent because, well, they've got Classic for the most part. So VALORANT will find the first. Zeldris is able to trade one out. The Bulldog takes a bite, and okay, damage yet here from OR Esports. Now VNS is going to try and push back side, and Tex is a right click away from death. This rifle could end up in the hands of OR Esports with 2 bullets left. Tex actually going to swap to the Classic of his own. Right click out. That's the spike down, and Tex is good for 3.
Knowing as well that his player is so low, he's gonna get it away with the Classic. I mean, you buy a Vandal into the round, Classic is gonna be the one that closes things out.
Yeah.
Good one for the guard there. Make it to 2 so far in Peril. In a quick reposition as well for Tex, right? It got risky for a second, was playing on top, had to drop, got flashed, got marked by the Hunt. I mean, everything going on, but it's still being so cool with it. OR Esports rifles in their hands. Let's see what they can do towards this A side.
And no Stinger buy in round 2. Leaving it to be an anti-eco means they do get the earlier rifle buy here. Oh, VNS in a bad spot. 3 players just on the other side trying to play strength. The numbers are the guard, and there's a lot of strength there. Damage back and forth. Both smoke players taken low, but still alive. So smoke's available. Control still available. But with that info, the guard back away.
Valen, low, 6 HP because of it. But nobody got taken down, right? It was that expected aggression from the guard on this B long, and still waiting for it. Now we have to back up. Yeah, there's nothing else that you can do.
And I mean, how much harder does the entry now look? Because Zeldris can't be the first one on. You can't be on your front foot.
As well.
Good flash in the backside. That'll slow things down for a second. 35 seconds. Haunt comes out. Aftershock to follow. Good fault line. Finds the stun, and the shots will land onto Tex. Meanwhile, damage still flying, and the Bulldog still biting as Jonah will find another for the team. Util dumped back site, and OR Esports struggling here to get onto this B site. Sure, they've assumed the position long, but that's all they've done. And 21 HP is where VNS started. This is where he'll end. No, instead it's 0. To find the end there, Net swings on through, and the round goes away of the guard.
Third round here, and it was the rifles for the side of OR Esports, yet nothing could be done, and that was all thanks to Jonah P. It was first the knife gets every single one of those players, continues to push forward, continues to keep OR so aware of his positioning, and then throws a flash, all to create that delay for the guard to make that rotation. Deny the push for OR, and now force them to get those stingers that we haven't seen just yet. Operator for Tex. And this is what you would assume, right? That OR Esports wants to do with the race eventually on that defensive side, but the guard, they can get a crazy lead here.
This is not look good, and not a whole lot of extra oomph behind the Stingers, right? Everybody really just a little out of reach of the ultimates for OR Esports, and Nilly not even on the right side of this A site to play for the orb to get that lockdown. So they're just going to opt into 5 players, looking to split this A site. Spike not committed just yet for OR Esports, and it's actually Zeldris to start farming up the ult.
He's gonna get spotted here. The player starting to push hard, and it's a little bit of a split to make it to A. Everybody playing far back though on this defensive side. The darts should be able to get some information. Good combo here with the C's, but doesn't turn into a kill.
And the nade was just a second too late there on the C's. And like you said, no kills found. However, Zeldris does find his way into the kill feed. Trent low on HP, but he'll look to take another duel for himself as he plays the high-low. And Zeldris is just dancing. He's just cutting a rug. Unfortunately, takes 2 to tango, and he was the only one alive for OR Esports.
The guard there, they were playing this so far back on the A side. It is what they did when they played that tournament and they played against TSM. They gave that comfort of either going for the trap plays on Link with the kill utility, or knowing that it was going to be the KO, this Sova, backside and ready to shut down the entry from A. So it becomes so much more easier. And then you only have the presence of an operator. Actually, no. The hands of Trent.
Sova up. Sova up. So I think there's two layers to this Sova op that are maybe falling a little short. Is
No, they exchange it.
okay, they did. Yeah, my thoughts are, if you spot the jet and there isn't an ult or an op, you're not expecting an op. Now we're talking ult, so we're talking boom boxes, we're talking rockets, and Zeldris is on the hunt, and he is going fishing. He shoots the rocket into the barrel. Unfortunately, that fish just a bit too tanky, and Jonas still gets one.
How, though? I'm not really sure how that went down. So much damage as well. The ultimate trying to play it faster, right? But when we hear the ultimate is trying to clear out that side and towards mid, it doesn't manage to do too much, though. The lurk here. Cornelius is gonna enable that lockdown to be available. Clearing out some space, and this is what OR have been trying to do.
Spike down.
Okay, Net the martyr there. Looking to catch somebody off guard, and he did just that. He was going to sacrifice his life for the lockdown, and he goes 1 for 1 at the end of the day. And this retake, I mean, it's a difficult one. Sure, the blades are online, but do you opt into this in a 2v3? With the operator still in the back of Tex. Cosmic Divide comes down. Ooh, we trade Cosmic Divides. And things now looking difficult. Another star goes down. Nano Swarm there. And we're just cut inside the purple walls. As Tex looks to go aggressive on the outside. He'll find one player out towards main. No, he won't, because the Cosmic Divide of Valen actually blocks him off. And yeah, the spike is half. Somebody has to make a decision here. Somebody has to push aggressively. It's the paint shells. That's the decision. But the defuse is better. The kills go the way of OR. But it's the guard for 5.
That is so good. Not having the numbers and still going for that ultimate. Playing it around. It looked insane. Just a purple room in a corner with a nano swarm in the middle. They had to wait it out, but the guard just played it so well. Those Cosmic Divides. The guard, they do them to perfection. Sometimes they like to have that combination of the Cosmic Divide and that lockdown for the retake. Obviously, that round wasn't a possibility, but it shows the impact that this composition and these players can bring to a round like this one, where it seems like everything was against them. 5-0, and OR yet to find an answer.
And we highlighted Zeldris, and we also kind of mentioned Nilly and Nilly's mindset coming into this series, coming out of week 1, and obviously it not getting any easier. But Nilly is another large tool for this OR Esports team, and consistency in Nilly is consistency in the rest of the team. So this is a great start for Nilly and Zeldris, personally, individually, sure, but the rest of the team just cannot find it. I mean, the timing is just a little bit off, right? The pistol round where they're going back and forth. They're a little unsure as where they want to end up, and they run right back into the guard. Even in that last round, the paint shells are just a moment too late. And the round prior, where they don't stack the C's on top of the paint shells to kill Trent back in that dugout. It's the minor things that hopefully this timeout for OR Esports are able to shore up. And now we can see this team that is so strong on Pearl continue to be that.
When OR went against M80, they were constantly pushing Art. They were constantly going for this mid control. Same thing that they're doing right now, right? But that information is information that the guard already has, and they take advantage of it perfectly. Seldris, the key piece that you need to be alive, is no longer going to be there this round. And in the meantime, the guard, they don't have to do anything else. They know the push is going to end up on Art in some form or the other. The owl drone is going to spot just that.
Valen refusing to give up space here. He's playing a bit of an off angle. The first time catches Eldris off guard. And with that information garnered, lockdown comes through. That's just going to take more time off the clock, and it's going to force decisions, right? It's going to force OR Esports. Well, they actually want to lean out towards B here. They still want to try and hit this site. Util dealt with. And no defenders on it directly, so seemingly allowed to plant here. But the guard are still a player ahead.
They're going to go for the spike planted here.
Spike planted.
Off your feet!
Uncomfortable position though, but the Rolling Thunder is going to allow them to push forward. But making it pass though, it's not easy to do. A little bit of a crossfire early on. Still the numbers for the guard.
And the problem with the guard, though, is they're all coming from the same spots here. Everybody from spawn, and the cross is set up. Fragment goes out. Util starting to get dumped here. Liren Joan already dealt with. Okay, I said there's a problem, but maybe not. This Nilly battles back for two. It doesn't matter. The guard are swift in their site take and swift in their victory as a sixth will find its way on the board.
Everybody was alive. Everybody, like you said, was playing together, but it wasn't really an issue, right? OR and the spike planted. It wasn't planted towards long. They had to play up close, and the guard were ready for it. To get that early crossfire, to get the early takedown, and even with the operator on the retake. It just seems like there was never an issue for the guard to deal with. Clean retake as well. As a guard, they get T6. There's another thing though, and especially it happens on that B side. Lear has to invest so much utility early on. And that is before the spike gets planted, then doesn't have enough time to re-clear it. There's small things like that that OR has had to deal with, not only here, just like in that last round, but also when they were going against M80. So I would love to see how they played around it.
Revealing area.
This just feels so brutal.
And it's always Art. It's always Art, and there's always a Killjoy utility.
I mean, what is that? Hearing the footsteps? Is that what that was? Net hears the footsteps. First pops a nano swarm, then allows Alarmbot to do its job. Hunter Shiri comes through, so the lockdown won't have any contention in the next couple of rounds, but won't be had for the next couple of rounds. And the guard just doing the guard things here. Again, refusing to give up his Nilly as he finds two for himself. The spike is planted. They're a player down here in OR Esports. The weaponry, not the best in the world here for Jonah. He's going to be next up to take this fight with Trent, and he's the next one down. Valen low as that turret is dealt with. Nilly going to try and hold on. A Killjoy versus Killjoy. Net out on top, and there's just so much again from this guard defense. The layers of the util, the layers of the setup for everybody around the map. I mean, the guard are how are the guard taking so much space without even really taking so much? They've got this world
so
where
good.
Tex just pushes all the way up B, and then there's literally nothing OR Esports can do because Net is inside the spawn, making sure nobody's link, and the defenders on A are so safe from Art because Net is also just doing that. It's so oppressive.
Yeah, and another reason why is that combination between Net on the Killjoy and Jonah P on the KO, where it is that Killjoy utility coming off and then Jonah P swinging off of it, with that KO already even providing so much information off contact when didn't even need to. And like you said, that is granting and giving so much space for the guard to work with. And look, you go on the B side, this is what he talked about. You're gonna have to invest so much, and also, what a shot for Selgis to go down. You have to invest early utility just to make it a little bit closer, and there's an operator still all the way back.
Ooh. Yeah, things you hate to see at the start of the round. Fragment goes out. It's going to force a few players back. They know that Nilly's stuck in the corner, and they'll push him. And the lockdown as Tex will keep his teammate alive. No, Jonah P will just do it himself. It's the full house between Jonah P and Tex for another round win.
That is all those two playing it together. And that shouldn't be happening, right? For Jonah P to be pushing that lockdown? You know the Killjoy's going to be up close, right? But nobody swings in time. And if they swing, they're gonna find Tex. It's just so well executed. What a nightmare setup to deal with anyways. With a Fragment behind that pillar. The guard, they make it to 8. Can they stop? It's another eco too.
I mean, we've seen crazier things. There is a chance. Right, we can take a look at what that chance could be, right? Let's try and find that light at the end of the tunnel here for OR Esports. Obviously, 4 rounds.
Yeah.
Still on the docket. Nightfall for information. And they've got this space out towards mid. They forced Net off of this angle. He cannot stay and fight. Now Trent is going to be in an awkward spot. Sure, once they push onto the site, they'll be crunched between Tex and Net. And no, instead, they just leave Tex on the island. And they want to concede this site. Meanwhile, look at the space being taken out towards B. OR Esports just getting completely crunched once more.
And just nobody pushing forward, nobody playing too aggressive. Maybe the only one is Tex, but nobody's there to take him down, especially with that operator. Are they even going to be expecting Tex here?
Stay down.
Of course not. Not expecting him at all. No way. The fadeaway shot onto Lear. And I know this guy wants some more. The no-scope doesn't land. And his team, no, he does it himself. Tex for 4. Trent will cap it off for the investor flawless.
Here's just no way. Tex is getting away with it. The operator gets 2. And then the friends is going to help out for the last ones. What a performance. The only player, the only one that was in a 4% an aggressive position by himself was Tex. And look at the way that he handled it just perfectly.
How did no frenzy bullet miss? Not a single frenzy bullet miss. I feel like somebody just dropped me on my head. And I'm sure OR Esports are feeling that same exact way. It was Tex picking him up and slamming him down powerbomb style in that round, making a statement. An uncharacteristic miss, sure, in this next one, but you know that you're not getting any more of those if you're OR Esports.
It's been so rough, right? It's been so back and forth. Again, there's the arc push that comes through at some point or the other, that swing that comes from it. And if not, it is this B hit where a retake is always ready. And that's what is going to happen. Again, just playing towards Link. Far back.
One down.
Goes down, actually.
Spike planted.
Yeah, Jonah, usually good for his 1. Dealt with early. Nagard, a player down once more. We haven't quite seen a retake like this. Good shock dart. Lear just so low. Rolling Thunder comes through. Deals with the members. Trying to push on through. VNS, fortunately, also at the butt of that one. Knives are out. Valen gonna find that kill. Tex will fall, but Trent's still battling forward. The guard are still battling forward. Down to the last 2 here. And Zeldris, as he dies in back halls, Jonah can only hope to pick up the pieces. As the Cosmic Divide subsides, there's a stun here in just a few seconds, but he's got to fight his way to the spike. And Trent won't allow it. The retake, only losing 1 for the guard, is just as good as the last 9 rounds.
And another one where that Cosmic Divide has a massive impact for the guard. To go for it, knowing there were even some ultimates, it was pretty much the same setup that they had early on for the retake, playing towards heaven and waiting for that cosmic divide to hit, waiting as well for that rolling thunder to hit for the set of OR, and knowing that OR, they were not going to play it long. They were going to play with some personal, where the guard feels more comfortable, and it's going to be incredibly frustrating, right? Not only you're down 10 rounds, but also it just feels like the shots aren't landing for OR. When they come down to those duels, it just doesn't seem to be enough, and that is incredibly frustrating to.
And it's... You can't blame them. You know, again, they've had the hardest weeks. This is the next hardest series, and they already had a tough one last week. So coming into this play-in, the Titans that are the guard, you can't blame them for being a little shaky, for being a little nervous, especially when some of these players are still finding their way. But it's a good start here. They deal with the first one. They only get traded a little bit of damage. Fragment comes out. Shock Dart stops the plant.
God.
And it's starting to fall apart once more. A flash through the Cosmic Divide. Zeldris, unfortunately, going to get backstabbed as he tried to turn around. He couldn't quite win the duel, but the trade is there. So a 3v3 is where we land as the stars come down once more. And Net wants to play inside. Has a turret. Has an alarm bot. Can maybe stop this plant. The cross being held. Nilly with a good kill. Make it 2. This is a winnable round. But Trent can do Trent things here. Nanoswarm onto the spike. The player main. The player dug out there. Cubby. That one dealt with. The player main dealt with. Oh my god. Trent made it look doable. But finally, OR Esports are on the board.
I got so scared for a second, turned into a 1v1, but Jonah just able to enter in time. First round here, though, for OR Esports. It's a long way to go if they want to make it at least close on this map. A map that we saw them win against M8 week.
Alarm bot out.
But I feel like more than it speaks about how this score is going in the first half, it's speaking so about how good the guard are. I mean, just absolutely insane performances from every single one of these players. Another A-hit attempt here early on. Operator. First one to potentially get contact here. But no, it's going to be just getting the orb, backing up. The last round.
Bring them
And we go back
there.
to the silence. Here in the attack for OR Esports. Playing it slow, playing around the map.
There.
Leaning out towards B.
There.
And has to make sure nobody pushes aggressively. The rest of the team working their way through Link. They're going to have to answer to Jonah P again.
It seems like not the Astra for, and that was the indication even before hearing anybody on Link. Jonah P already knew where this round.
This guy a one-man machine. Not a play on the KO, but actually a one-man machine. He's just holding them in place. There's no way that OR Esports can deal with the bot. It is Jonah P. 3 kills on the round. The last 2 sure are still there. With 13 seconds on the clock, they have to get that spike planted. They have to defend the lockdown, but they can't. The spike has fallen. VNS is nowhere near it. And the guard do it again. It's 11-1 at the half.
Switching
An
sides.
insane score, but for the guard and for the guard fans, this is exactly what you expected to see. This is the guard that everybody's talking about. Absolutely unstoppable. Getting every single one of those duels. It's ridiculous what this team was able to do. I know they talked about it in the interview last week. They've been practicing since October of last year. That is more practice than anybody else, more experience than anybody else at the top level, even international level. And it's just really showing off in the lobby.
Okay, this is the part of the broadcast, though, where we find once more that ray of hope for OR Esports. This is their strong side. They went 9-3 against M80 and brought it all the way back here on defense. Now, as you would expect, 2 more rounds go the way of the guard because they are assumed to be the best team. But OR Esports can still find a way. They only gave up 1 round on their defense against M80, and they have that 1 round of wiggle room. It won't mean a map win, but it will mean an overtime.
They're gonna wait this so patiently. Valen was actually looking at mid, making sure nobody was gonna make that push, and this is something that he likes to do on the Astra on this map, just going for a lurk even after that spike gets planted and getting some right timing.
Got him.
But it doesn't matter, the flash, the combination of utility just seems to be good enough.
More than good enough. More than good enough
Do
are
we
the
need
guard.
anything else?
And if you're OR Esports, what can you do? Boombot goes out for information. Doesn't find a whole lot. Push inside the smoke, and BNS already dealt with. Dash away to safety. The long-range battle goes the way of Jonah P. As Nilly left to pick up the pieces. An investor flawless here to push us to 12.
One more round for the guard to close a map that, compared to the match that we saw before, has been incredibly fast, right? Every single map from the match number 1 of today was so back and forth between two teams, and this one is just a statement from the guard. How good they are at this map, how good they are against OR Esports, and OR still trying to find any opportunities, any spaces to get something done, and that's gotta be the Stingers.
The guard are seemingly just in a league of their own. As I say that, though, we go right-click burst battles. The Stinger best the Bulldog. That doesn't feel great, but for our Esports, they're happy to have that one. Meanwhile, Nilly's just in the grinder here in a rough spot.
No, 3 of those stars. Just doing anything to slow down the guard for what could be the last round, but there's phantoms in their hands and a couple of players as well. Nearly low.
Spike down.
Jonah though, good answer.
That's a great answer. That's everything you needed from Jonah. A beautiful stun. He capitalizes off the back end. He finds a 4. Tech's still alive, but only for a moment. And there it is. You can stop holding your breath now. OR Esports, they hang on. They find a second round, and they did so in thrifty fashion.
And that just took a little bit of everything that the OR Esports had, but this is just what you have to do, right? When you're going against the guard, taking it with all those stars, with all that patience, and the potential quick rotations that we might see. We got to see in that B side, and
We are strong.
they just need those numbers to make things even.
Bit more scattered are the guard here, looking for individual plays. Tex
Yeah.
turns on the winds, forced to dash away. Tailwind now expended, but a bit of damage taken. And Jonah happy to scare off the jet. The other Jonah, though. The other Jonah.
Oh, and there's gonna be 2 here. It's so scary when Lear goes down. There's so much respect that has to be given, right, to the guard, even with these kind of guns, even with these kind of weapons in their hands.
30 seconds left.
And Jonah's gonna want to creep up for this one. Zeldris,
Oh, no.
good to punish there, expecting somebody wanting to look for an upgrade. Exactly the case. Turret gets information, and Nilly lines up 2 and takes him down, making 3. Wants a 4th. He'll find a 4th. It's Nilly's round.
To run.
Nice, good control here for the defense for Nilly.
Where are we going this time?
And good for 4 and keeping OR alive as much as you can, anything that it takes. Nilly has had a good map overall. You look at the kills, you look at
Down B. One enemy remaining.
the way that he's playing around that utility, even the Astra, to get something done. It's been good. It's just the guard overall having, well, it seems to be that better coordination, right?
Mm-hmm.
The better synergy that it really seems to be unmatched. But now, back in track with those rifles. Is the guard on attack? There's 2 players up close.
It's a good read from OR Esports. A couple of players close to their ultimates, whether it be the Knives or it be the Hunter Shuri. They know the guard aren't going to play for that orb. They try and punish early, but at the end of the day, they have to sacrifice.
And the ultimate that is going to be available is that Hunter Fury in the hands of Trent. Just sounds like a nightmare to deal with as well. For post-plant scenario, even early on, as Trent likes to do it sometimes. Very early on, got some information, that's when the Hunter Fury goes down, gets one, and there it is, numbers advantage. So many good possibilities for the guard to be able to close it out here. And Selgis is the strongest one here on this A side that has to shut it down. But look at how far back he's playing, right? With the operator.
Nowhere to run!
Here comes that Hunter Shuri. Oh, and there's just nowhere to go
We
for
have 30
VNS.
seconds
He's
left.
just completely corralled as the boom bot will also be dealt with. Paint shells out and over the top, but the site has been assumed. Tex, he didn't need the orb to find his ultimate. He's now got it in way of kills as Nilly creeps on up. He grabs a kill onto net. He'll now have to deal with Jonah P, and the rest of the squad are pushing through, and Jonah's just running and gunning as it's all up to Lear with a Vandal. Zeldris with an operator in a 2v4. Zeldris will look to take the high ground. His head is spotted. The body is shot, and it's Jonah P. It eventually falls. 1 kill now away from the paint shells, the swing from the knives, and Tex takes matters into his own hands, and the guard will close the book here on Pearl and deliver a second loss to OR Esports on this map.
A dominant performance here for the guard. From beginning to end, everything that we saw, it just feels like it was going according to plan in every way possible. I mentioned it, right? Even those duels, they gave that 50-50 chance for OR to take. The guard, they were just doing it better. And Selgers, that big win condition on Pearl when they were going against M80 just was not here. Never really got contested with the operator on that B side. Went for that A approach and had to play far back because they were expecting the owl drone to come through, the dart as well. And even for the last round, the Hunter's Fury from Trent, it was just composition and a combination of utility that the guard likes to bring that is so oppressive to the enemy.
Yeah, I think that point on utility is nail on the head, especially as a Raze, right? Not that I'm saying that this is not a Raze map, but when the Raze wants to go, you don't necessarily have options after you toss down your blast packs. So when you're pushing through Art, you start to blast pack as Zeldris, and then you're immediately met with the Nano Swarm. Then you try and push again, and you're immediately met by that Alarm Bot. Not that it was just Net that did it, but the util usage from the Alarm Bot and Nano Swarm out towards Art, the turret inside Link, then you want to try and hit B. And unfortunately, you're running into Jonah P, who is just absolutely a brick wall of a defender. I mean, that was so incredibly oppressive, and it's exactly why, Dryad. We talked about it coming into this map that the guard had something cooking, and I mean, hey, the grill was fired up. The grill was fired up. OR Esports, yeah.
It's so good, and I love how clean it is, right? Because if you're a guard fan, this is how clean you want every single map to be from them.
Every game has to be a statement game to prove that the guard are on a whole another level, and that's exactly what they've done in this series to get us started, but there is more to come. It's Bind on the docket right after this.
I would honestly choose to live on Lotus, considering like how nice it is and how spacious it is. I think other than that, I don't think I would choose any other maps because I think Lotus is actually a beautiful map. So
for me, I would want to live on Breeze so I can go fishing every day. It's all good. Beach every day sounds great to me.
Probably Lotus, honestly. Like I really enjoy that map. Just going, like, it's really easy to work around. Like if I'm living, it's really easy to get to all places on the map. Like you got the doors and everything. I can get through everywhere.
Maybe I would choose Bind just because it's kind of like Arizona and I'm from Arizona. I think that's probably my best answer.